As of recently, I've been looking forward to playing games that I knew would blow my mind at some point. I hate leaving games incomplete without knowing the full story, because it means that I'm either missing out on a potentially good plot, or some great moments that screwed with my mind. What qualifies as an insane moment? Well, something that usually subverts your expectations, leave your thoughts and emotions completely scattered, and keeps you on the edge of your seat, desperate to see what happens next. Just as a warning though, these tend to be spoiler sensitive, and it's best to play the game without knowing about these moments. Also, because some of these are plot twists. I thought it would be a wasted opportunity to make most of these entries plot twists, so I cut a few of them out, but I still left a few in. Without further ado, let's get on with the crazy show. Something I really like about music is how it can completely change the tone of a scene. I'm serious about this. Try putting a really stupid song over a character's death, and yeah, all of a sudden you can't take it seriously anymore. Now with that out of the way, let's talk about Death Road to Canada. Now, post-apocalyptic America flooded with zombies sounds like a pretty dire situation, right? Well, despite the circumstances, the game doesn't really play it very seriously. It's really lighthearted and silly, and that's reflected in the music. Even in the last siege of the game, where you have to defend yourself for 4 hours against a gigantic horde of zombies, you get to listen to Frankenstein Goes to Florida. However, if you're playing on one of the deadlier road difficulties, the music actually changes during the final siege. You get to listen to The City of Lost Hope, which is far more grim. On the easier difficulties, this final siege doesn't feel a whole lot different from the other sieges. But by simply adding more enemies and changing the music, it completely changes the tone of the situation. It sounds like, and honestly is, a desperate attempt to stay alive. You have to stand against all odds and hold your own against this gigantic group of zombies. And one of my favorite things is how the song itself is exactly 4 minutes long, which is the same length of time the siege lasts. I just find it unbelievable that by making a few minor changes to yet another silly part of this game, it makes your entire predicament so much more tense. Splatoon 2 Octo expansion was kind of weird. The story of this DLC is that you're an Octoling trying to get to the surface with the help of some other Splatoon characters. And maybe it's the setting, but everything about this felt way more ominous than anything else in the series. Hey, look over there, it's Craig's cousin. And what doesn't help is this unsettling phone that is supposedly helping you. It serves as a guide telling you about these 4 things you need to get to escape. And whenever you get all 4 of those things, the telephone tries to blind you up. Thankfully, you and Captain Cuttlefish end up getting saved by Agent 3, and you proceed to make your way to the surface on your own. What follows is a really long and somewhat intense final level of you making your way to the top. Oh, and Pearl, Marina, and Cuttlefish are still in contact with you. But while you're making your way through the level, something bad seems to happen on Cuttlefish's end of things, and he loses contact with you. And when you're nearing the exit, you run into Agent 3, who has a little something on his face. The phone did something to him, and now he's under his control, and you have to fight him. And whenever you do beat him, you finally make your way to the surface where you're greeted by Pearl and Marina. So yeah, that sounds pretty epic in my book. But where's the crazy stuff? Don't get me wrong, all of that stuff I just mentioned is pretty cool, but it doesn't match the criteria I was searching for. But while that may not, this does! What the actual frick is going on? So a weird statue resembling a human head rises out of the ocean. And the phone's back too, or should I call him Commander Tartar. He was created with the sole purpose to pass down knowledge to future species. However, he was disgusted by the Inklings and Octolings because of how they waged war over super petty things. Because as you may know, humans never fought over super minor things that didn't really matter. But he's going to use his machine to completely destroy Inkopolis and start a new species. And of course, you have to stop him in one of the weirdest final battles I've ever seen. You have to cover it with ink so that it can't use solar energy to power its laser. And should you run out of time or fall off of the structure, you get a unique game over screen of Inkopolis being destroyed. I hardcore approve of gaming channels using Agent 3 in their spoiler thumbnails instead of whatever this is. This climax was completely out of nowhere, and I think I love it. I find it so strange that up until that point the finale had been completely fine, but at the last moment, everything goes bonkers. This is the kind of stuff that makes games worth seeing through till the end. Kitana Zero gave me a little bit of everything I love in video games. It managed to have really fun and fast-paced combat, but also have a pretty solid story to back it up. But this video is about insane moments, and let me tell you that there's plenty to choose from here. I really like it whenever a game plays with my head, and this one does it a lot. But my favorite moment like this involves the psychiatrist. You have a session with the psychiatrist after almost every level, but also keep in mind that he's your employer, so you have to follow his instructions when you're out on a mission. Or do you? As it turns out, there are a couple things you can do to disobey him and make him just a little bit slightly ticked off. You can do things such as treat him like garbage, talk to the people you're supposed to be killing, and overall ignoring all of his commands. And at the end of the game, after the final level, Zero ends up confronting the psychiatrist and brutally murdering him. But if you met some very specific requirements, then the psychiatrist fights back and takes a special kind of medicine. And no, it's not Chronos like you've been taking, it's something completely different. And all of a sudden, he's incredibly strong and has several unnatural powers. The fight's really hard and incredibly chaotic, which I think is more fitting than the game's regular final boss. Speaking of which, I kinda missed it whenever games had secret final bosses. But eventually, things get incredibly trippy and you know it's building up to something huge. And the final phase tops things off with... What am I even looking at? What happened to him? Why does he look like this? Why are there syringes flying everywhere? Somebody, please, help! And then when you beat him, it just cuts to you and him in a chair and he has a sword in his eye. Let me get that out. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what happened either. People theorize that the drug didn't do anything and just screwed with Zero's mind. Like, as if the drug doesn't have any use and the psychiatrist is only using it to screw with Zero's already fractured psyche. Well, I know one thing's for certain. It messed with mine. So, I'm talking about ELISA yet again. What can I say? This game gives me way too much material to work with. And there are actually a lot of moments that would qualify for this list, such as... or that time when you... But there's one moment in particular I want to give special attention to because otherwise I would never get to talk about it. Those other moments will get their chance to shine at a later date. Throughout the game, you'll occasionally be ambushed by a man named Buzzo. He's unbelievably intimidating and wants to torture Brad for who knows what reason. And whenever you encounter him, you know he's gonna make your life into a living hell. Such as whenever you're forced to choose between a party member getting killed or having your arm cut off. But nothing quite compares to the last time you see him. So you're heading off to one of the last areas of the game, but while you're going there, you run into one of your old friends, Sticky. Sticky tells Brad that he can't go on further and that he won't be able to save Buddy. Buddy doesn't belong to Brad. He should just let her go. Brad becomes furious and is about to kill Sticky whenever one of his other friends, Rick, comes to interrupt them. How Rick survived that beating is honestly beyond me. Now you have the choice of either sparing them or killing them. It doesn't have a whole lot of impact, but it still puts a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And here's where Buzzo comes in. Not even a full minute later, you're ambushed by Buzzo and his cronies. And the worst part is, he has Buddy, and now you're forced to make the most twisted decision in the game. Either your party members get gunned down, or he cuts off one of Buddy's nipples. And if you choose the latter option, then you get yourself a nice little souvenir. You can even equip it. But guess what? It still doesn't end there. Buddy ends up getting away from Buzzo, and Buzzo decides to screw with you some more. Now you're given one more choice. You either lose an arm, potentially missing both if you already gave your other one up earlier, or losing all of your items. But there's actually one more option. Questioning Buzzo on his actions. But if you decide to choose that, not only do you not get your answer, but you have both things taken away from you. And you know the funniest thing about this whole segment? The last choice is the only one that really matters. If you kill Rick and Sticky, then Sticky won't show up to fight you one last time later on in the game, which isn't really a big deal. As for the second choice, not only is getting your party members a really stupid decision, but Buddy isn't really affected by it. The third one is the only one that will have any sort of major impact. However, you don't know this while you're playing through it for the first time. So in the eyes of a newcomer, you're making 3 potentially big choices here. I really should play more horror games. I have a love-hate relationship with getting scared in video games, so whenever a non-horror game gets randomly scary, it really does frighten me. SteamWorld Dig 2 is a really good example of that. Now at first I thought this game was just okay, but this is one of the few ones I've played that gradually gets better and never dips in quality. As I continued to play the game, I found it more and more fun, and then I entered Vectron for the first time and realized it really was something special. Vectron is completely different than any other area in the game. So what, you've been exploring mines and temples? How about next, you go to this strange, robotic, I don't even know what to call this. I really should have been tipped off whenever the characters started talking about how unnaturally threatening this place was. And now you're all alone in a terrifying foreign place. The scariest thing about Vectron starting off is the atmosphere. There's no music, and there's very few enemies. The worst there is so far is these little wisp things that'll fly into some TVs and blow them up. It's a little bit unnerving, but nothing scary. But then things take a very creepy turn. There'll be some static flickers while you're running about, and you see these menacing golems everywhere. Things are heating up, and it's about to reach its boiling point. Now, something I remembered was how earlier you were using an upgrade to your pickaxe to bring certain golems to life and move them out of the way. So, what's the deal with these golems? And as soon as I saw one of those wisps approaching one, I knew exactly what was about to go down. Oh no. No, 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 no. Okay, I think we got away from that one. Oh, okay, watch this. They're going to do something really stupid here. Like I said, I think we've got this in the bag now. Let's cut to the chase with Bravely Second, because there is a lot to unpack here. You think you're near the end of the game. Kaiser Oblivion, the main villain, has opened up the Holy Pillar to travel back in time and change the future. You've arrived at his flying stronghold, ready to finally rescue Agnes, just like you were trying to do throughout the whole game. He used her to open up the Holy Pillar to begin with. You make your way through the fortress and fight some bosses, including Jan, who was Yu's closest ally before he betrayed him. If this battle was supposed to be the meat of the entry, then I'd talk about it more, but we have more important things to discuss. From the information I've given you, the little information I've given you, this seems like a finale, right? Well, you're dead wrong. Just when you think the final battle is approaching, Kaiser Oblivion ends up escaping with Anya through the Holy Pillar. So, he got away. But that's not even the worst part. Anne, who served as his companion, stays behind and proceeds to destroy the moon using the pillar's power. Yeah, she destroys the whole thing. Eat your heart out, Dr. Eggman! Not only is that Magnolia's home, but also due to its destruction, time has frozen. For some reason. You fight Anne, but she ultimately gets the last laugh. She did exactly what she wanted to do. And now, you get to explore the world in a doomed, frozen state. There's no music outside of battles, there's a gray filter over everything, and my favorite restaurant is permanently closed because time doesn't flow anymore. And if that wasn't creepy enough, there are no enemy encounters, besides the chance of running into balls on the overworld. So, what can you do? Well, you addresses the player, because this game doesn't have a fourth wall, and pleads for your help. Look, that's neat and all, but I don't think that there's anything I can do to help. What the frick? Yep, they incorporated a standard RPG feature into the game's story. Your current save file is in a brick state with no way to progress, but by using New Game Plus, you go back to the beginning of the game before Anya got kidnapped. From there, you summon your party members who retain their knowledge from the previous file and engage in a fight with Kaiser Oblivion. So, did all of you get that down? Because there were a lot of crazy things that happen one after another, and I personally love it. I think implementing New Game Plus into this was really cool and unexpected, and if they didn't, then they couldn't have had this surprising world-ending scenario. The world feels kind of empty and a little bit ominous without the moon around, but thankfully you're given another chance to set things right and come to terms with everyone since you're back at the start. And things do get better. Sure, Kaiser Oblivion escapes his detainment, but his plan doesn't get off the right foot this time. It seemed like everything was over, but no, you get your opportunity to make everything better than it was before. So, I guess this is technically the best New Game Plus in any video game.
How do you like that, Obama? I pissed on the moon, you idiot!
Ah yes, here's the game that made me delay this list. I had a feeling something insane was about to happen in Fire Emblem Three Houses. There's too many secrets brought up throughout the story for there not to be a crazy moment. And there are a few parts, but they weren't quite what I was looking for. Thankfully, there's still some good material to work with. In Three Houses, you're assigned as a teacher at Garrigmach Monastery at one of, well, 3 houses. The Blue Lions, led by Dimitri, Black Eagles, led by Edelgard, and Golden Deer, led by Claude. And for the first half of the game, everyone feels closely knitted together by the monastery. However, as you progress throughout the chapters, you'll see scenes with some interesting characters. Among them is the Flame Emperor, who you know pretty much nothing about. He'll show up in a few scenes with other characters you also know little about, but even with this lack of knowledge, it made me sort of fearful that something really bad was about to happen. After the mission at Remire Village, Flame Emperor will greet you face to face and ask Byleth for an alliance, which of course, he declines. Not only because, why would you ally with someone you don't know much about, but also because games aren't allowed to have impactful choices. Not too long after this, when Lady Rhea the Archbishop requests that you come with her to the Holy Tomb of the Goddess, you see Flame Emperor once again. He follows you down to the tomb with his army in an attempt to steal the crest stones down there. And of course, in that level, you finally fight him. This is where things get crazy. I knew the unity of Garrigmach would be broken eventually, but what I didn't expect was that it would be Edelgard who would destroy it. Bro, what are you talking about? That plot twist was pretty obvious. The Flame Emperor wasn't some random person. It was the leader of the Black Eagles, one of the monastery's classes. In her eyes, the church is corrupt and she plans to overthrow it. She was using the Flame Emperor disguise to ally with those who slither in the dark. Gosh, that name is really stupid. She builds up an army to invade Garrigmach, and she actually succeeds, because in the following battle, Byleth suffers from a fall that leaves him knocked out for 5 years. Wait, what? Once he finally wakes up, he sees that Garrigmach and Fodlan as a whole is in ruins. All you can do now is regroup with your class and stop Edelgard's reign. What I dislike about how modern games or movies handle twist villains is how blatant they are. Like, oh yeah, that guy is definitely not someone else in disguise. Here, however, it's not entirely obvious that the Flame Emperor is someone else. To me, the Flame Emperor is just the Flame Emperor. And whenever it's finally revealed to just be a masquerade, it's somebody completely unexpected. Honestly, who would think that the villain would be somebody that had the opportunity to be one of your students? I will say that one weak aspect about this moment is that it's not nearly as strong in Golden Deer, which just so happens to be the one that I played. But think about if you took Black Eagles instead, because in that route, you're actually given the option to help Edelgard. So I got exactly what I was looking for. I just didn't expect it to play out like this. Dragon Quest XI had several scenarios that were pretty similar to other RPGs I had played. That's not entirely a bad thing, but I couldn't help but make comparisons. However, in this case, I think it was exactly what this game's story needed. So, you're off to retrieve the Sword of Light from Yggdrasil, the Tree of Life. After making your way to the top, you hear some truly serene music that makes you feel like you're about to become the hero you set out to be. It's one of those moments where you walk slowly on purpose just to embrace the atmosphere. Sure enough, in the center of the tree lies the sword. Now then, if the game wanted to play it safe like it had been up until this point, then you'd probably just grab the sword and leave. But instead, Jasper interrupts the moment. He's chased you throughout the entire game because King Cornelian deemed you, the Luminary, as the Darkspawn that would bring chaos to Erdrea. At least, that's why he's supposed to be after you. A fight ensues that you can't win because of his Dark Orb disabling your attacks. After he defeats you, Hendrik and King Cornelian appear. Hendrik has put two and two together that Jasper isn't actually after the Luminary because he believes him to be the Darkspawn. Rather, he's been after you this whole time because he's been working for the Lord of Shadows. Honestly, I have absolutely no clue what gave it away. Jasper was pretty subtle about his alliance to Mordegon. But before Hendrik can step in, Cornelian knocks him out. The same person who's been after you the whole game believing you to be the Darkspawn is now preventing Hendrik from stopping the true evil one? That's not right. Then it's revealed that Mordegon had actually been possessing Cornelian for several years, and with your party in a bad position, you can only expect the worst. Okay, he can't get to the Sword of Light without the Mark of the Luminary, right? Well, okay then, he'll just rip it right out of you and then destroy it whenever he's gotten a hold of the sword. He follows this up by stabbing into the heart of Yggdrasil, killing the tree and granting him unimaginable power. And now that the Tree of Life has fallen, then what happens to the world? Quite simple. Everything is in ruin, your party has been completely separated, and the person you were trying to stop this whole time has won. That's a lot to take in, but that isn't even the worst part. The effects the fall of Yggdrasil has caused are horrific. Monsters have control over most of the land and everyone is hopeless. Your hometown Cobblestone has been turned into a place of refuge led by Hendrik and the now unpossessed King Cornelian. Speaking of Hendrik, he's devastated that Jasper, his closest companion, somebody he would consider a brother, just betrayed everyone in the world. Like, bro, what the frick? Oh, and don't worry, this event affects the gameplay as well. When I got into a battle, I noticed that one of my abilities was missing. Afterwards, I checked my skill tree and noticed that the section that was dedicated to the Luminary abilities was completely gone. Remember, Mordegon destroyed the mark whenever he was finished using it. And your party members aren't faring much better either. In the Switch version of the game, they added in extra segments for each of them, which I question why these weren't in the original release because it feels strange not having any context to their current situations. But then, I thought about something. There was no scenario for Veronica or Serena. Sure, Serena struggles to fight on her own, but couldn't they just pair them together or something? However, when your party has almost completely gotten back together, something feels very wrong. Veronica's the only one missing, but it didn't feel like she was coming back. And I can't believe this, but she didn't. She sacrificed herself, saving everyone else before Yggdrasil fell. one of your party members is freaking dead. And sure, Serena inherits her powers, but still, I could not believe that Dragon Quest, a series that's commonly viewed as standard RPGs, kill off one of your party members for good. And I can't think of any other RPG off the top of my head that has done that. But even with all of that, there's still a silver lining. Everybody is given a chance to grow both in the story and the gameplay. They get their moments in the story, and all of their skill trees get expanded at certain points. One of the best parts is the encounter of the Gloomnivore, because I think it encompasses everything I love about this second act. You get to see your father's memories of the attack on Dundrasil. Not only do you discover how Cornelian got possessed in the first place, but also the Gloomnivore absolutely soaks in the fact that you failed and the world is doomed. But you still grow from this, and you eventually get your powers back. This whole event was spectacular. It blew my mind and did something completely unexpected. I will never underestimate Dragon Quest ever again. Oh hey, Broken Age. That one pretty decent point-and-click adventure game that I'll probably never mention again. Yeah, this game was pretty average, all things considered. It was on the verge of being something special, but it really didn't deliver. Pro gamer tip: being average won't lend you a lot of spots on my countdowns. However, there's one point that is just brilliant. The main feature of the game is how you control two characters in two entirely different scenarios. Vela, a girl who lives in a town that holds a tradition called the Maiden's Feast to fend off the terrifying Mog Chothra. And Shay, a guy who has spent most of his life in a kiddified spaceship operated by his mother. One thing I really like about the game is how you know there's some connection between these two, yet there's no dead giveaways whatsoever. Vela goes on a quest to kill Mog Chothra to stop innocent people from being sacrificed to it, while Shay is given the opportunity to save creatures from a galactic war thanks to the help of a wolf named Merrick. Eventually, both of these stories will reach a dead end, and you have to finish the other in order to progress the game. Vela's ends when she finally takes down Mog Chothra, and Shay's ends after witnessing an explosion outside of his ship. After this, it's finally revealed how these two stories are connected. Mog Chothra wasn't a beast, it was Shay's spaceship. And Shay wasn't in space. His whole life was a lie and he was manipulated by Merrick to do his bidding. I took a break after that cutscene and just had to ask myself, what was going on? The best part was figuring out all the subtle hints about the relation of these stories. The most notable one, without a doubt, is the rescue minigames. Merrick requested Shay to rescue some creatures out in dangerous parts of space. But wait, if we weren't actually in space, then what were those segments supposed to be? Oh my gosh. Details like that are beyond clever. My only issue with this is that the story takes a nosedive after this part. This is the peak, and then it slowly goes downhill from there. But on its own, this moment is without a doubt one of the most mind-blowing things I've ever seen in a game. It was completely unexpected. As you can probably tell by how this video has been playing out, the definition of insanity and I just said the funny meme. The word insane is pretty broad. We've seen extremely chaotic moments, but also plenty that are shocking, unexpected twists in the story. Because of this, it was pretty difficult to rank these entries, so while some of the other moments may be better, nothing captures my criteria better than what I've chosen for number 1. Seaman Max is in itself a pretty wacky franchise. There are plenty of crazy moments, but those are mostly played for laughs and stuff. The Devil's Playhouse, on the other hand, took them a lot more seriously. Okay, they didn't take them that much more seriously, despite what some elitists would have you believe. There were some pretty crazy parts in the Devil's Playhouse, but they still retained the Seaman Max goofiness to them. But at one point, they really pushed the envelope. I'm serious, they shoved it right off the desk. In episode 4, Beyond the Alley of the Dolls, a bunch of clones of Sam have randomly started appearing around the town. Each of these episodes are stitched together by a very small thread. A new conflict comes up as soon as the other one has been dealt with. The clones are after all sorts of toys, which sounds weird at first, until you realize that whoever is controlling them must be after the psychic toys of power that Max has been using. You don't know who's behind all of this. Could it be Skunk Ape? Stinky? I mean, it could even be the scary homeless man in the McDonald's kitchen. As you play through the episode, you do discover a few things, such as the origin behind the toy box and the contents inside. Long story short, a horrific beast named Yogg-Sothoth had a lot of little toys for his son Junior. However, a group of mole people were able to take the toys because one of them was specifically made to fight monsters like Yogg-Sothoth. Dude, that's like a gamer keeping all of his epic gamer stuff in his backpack, but also keeping something he was scared of in there. In that case, it would be a bar of deodorant. Obviously, somebody is after the toy box and is using the clones to find it and the other toys. And just as you're about to find out the location of the box, one of the toys you're using acts up. You know who was the culprit behind this? The Charlie Hotep doll that gives Max his ventriloquism powers. Oh my gosh, we're having a repeat of number 4. But unlike that entry, this unexpected twist doesn't solely carry this moment. The Sam clones bring the duo to the Statue of Liberty to perform a ceremony to revive Junior. That has got to be the scariest Brussels sprout I've seen in my entire life. Max is at the foot of the statue while Sam is at the top. Yogg-Sothoth and Paperweight are dangling from a cage, and Sam is immobile due to some force or whatever. Charlie explains to Sam that he wants to revive Junior so that he'll be his favorite toy. And whenever Yogg-Sothoth insists that Junior always hated Charlie, he freaks out and begins shooting at him. He's such a demented character and is willing to plunge the world into darkness just to get some tentacle shoved straight up that. Heck, he even breaks the fourth wall at one point. He literally says that he made Sam the template for the clones because he was easy to control. Though, that statement would be a lot more true if this wasn't the only game in the series where you mainly move Sam around with the WASD keys. So, Charlie, he may not be as easy to control as you think. Max is able to make it to the top thanks to Sam changing the music affecting the statue's appearance. And as if this wasn't crazy enough, now Max has to fight Charlie in a psychic showdown, unleashing his inner powers. This leads to one of the most creative parts in the game, where Max can transform into Sam's thoughts to combat Charlie. But have you noticed that this moment is completely insane? How are you supposed to solve puzzles whenever your mind has already been beaten into the ground for one of the most unimaginable scenarios I've ever seen in a game? Everything about this is chaotic and the music fits perfectly. One of my favorite little details is whenever you use future vision on Junior, it just cuts to a black void with somebody screaming in the background. And it still manages to be really funny despite the circumstances. It's like if Sam and Max were thrown into a terrifying parody of H.P. Lovecraft's work, which this is an obvious homage to. Probably why this is so insane. But what seals the deal is the end of the episode. Max looks dead after the fight, but he's completely fine. Until his powers begin to go berserk and he transforms into a monster similar to Yogg-Sothoth and Junior. Which, of course, sets up the conflict for the next episode. You're going to throw all of this at me and not even let me catch a sigh of relief. I think I'm Luggo the Luggician, and what is wrong with game developers?